Today's Tuesday, October 19th, and this is your warning that October's basically gone. Today we've got government and social news? Security. I knew it started with an S.
And the sort might not be great today, but this browser...
Yeah, we don't know. Firefox is being weird. We can't drag the tabs. We can't even move the window. Like, it's just not responding.
And you say use a different browser? I know what you're saying out there. I know what you're saying, but no, I'm not doing that again. All those tabs I have to sort again, I'm not doing it. So, we'll just enjoy it, a potpourri of stories instead of clusters.
It is a little overdue for me to rebuild the streaming computer. It's probably going to get worse.
Yeah, it always gets worse. Because you're unwilling to eliminate what's really wrong. So, Amazon and Facebook and a bunch of other companies, basically the big names that you're familiar with, guess what? You'll never guess. The FTC's after them. You've never heard that before.
Amazon, Facebook, and many, many other companies are facing FTC warning over reviews. The headline here is a little misleading, but basically Miss Lena Khan has emailed all of those companies, and she's basically said, okay, you might not be responsible for the fake reviews, but you're complicit in the fake reviews because you have the tools to detect and police that. And so if we find that you are being complicit with sellers, including third-party sellers, doing fake reviews, then we will hold you responsible.
Something tells me that the discovery from the case that's about to come up about the Amazon's basic brands,
yes,
if Amazon's argument is no, that is onerous for you to try to make us do that. We don't have those tools. I think that other case will prove that to be a lie.
Yes.
They have the tools.
They definitely do have the tools. The Exhibit A should be that tripod company. Remember, we did the story that had the about the tripods, and they're like the company that they had overseas making parts for their tripod was very forthcoming because it's culturally different. It was like, oh yeah, Amazon's ordering the same parts from us now too. And it was just like...
It's kind of obvious.
Yeah.
And the case should be pretty easy, but Amazon is so powerful. Who knows?
The tripod people pointed out, what Amazon is doing in that case is definitely not illegal because, you can buy from a third-party supplier. But in these cases, it's not going to come. They're not going to come up smelling like roses having done that.
Well, they're going to risk their... See, the problem, it's the same as Facebook, right? Sometimes you want to steal people's stuff. Other times you want to step back and be like, hey, this is not us. We're just the marketplace.
They can literally have their cake and eat it too.
And they have been. And look how big they've got. Microsoft, on the other hand, tries a different approach, perhaps a more mature approach. They go right into the oligarchy. They ingratiate themselves with government, law enforcement. They take our freedoms and privacy and they sell it. Oh, business is good too, but they might be finally getting called out on it.
A shareholder proposal put forth to Microsoft to say, hey, can we take a look at human rights abuses with technology? Like, how are you using technology? Might it result in human rights abuses? Some kidney harvesting, some facial recognition, some border patrol stuff that, maybe resulted in some unpleasantness.
Or even just a cruise missile or two landing somewhere where they otherwise might not have because of some intelligence.
Do we as shareholders, can we look at that and can we okay that? And Microsoft said, yeah, that sounds good.
So yeah, it's kind of the Google thing. I think Microsoft has seen what has happened at Google and they said, we got to get in front of this somehow.
I think what they're expecting is shareholders will look at this and be like, well, if we let them harvest a few kidneys, we're going to make an extra 3 points on our share this year. I guess that's all right.
Yeah. Honestly, the shareholders probably would be okay with that. And if you're not, you could sell your shares. Section 230 comes up over and over and over. We know that the Trump gang solidly against it. Democrats kind of seem to be okay with it, but then again, they take shots at it once in a while when it suits them. It seems like more and more people are trying to get rid of it. But here is a decent example, I think, of why it's so important.
A victory for free knowledge. A Florida judge has ruled that Section 230 bars a defamation claim against the Wikimedia Foundation.
Now, they did do something terrible here. Well, they didn't do it, but they hosted it.
Yeah. So people edited an article about this individual it is the wrong picture.
Right. So this guy, it was a killer.
Yeah.
The guy had the same exact name as a killer. Some online sleuths, the 4chan detectives get out there and they're like, we've got him. But the whole idea of due process, they don't bother with that. So they threw his picture up. It's not the killer, the guy with the same name. He sued. I feel like he does. Somebody owes this guy something, right?
Well, they had
the editor.
They had fixed it. So like it was. There was like 6 edits.
That's like printing a retraction in the paper.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Nobody goes back to check. How many times you looked at a Wikipedia story and then 3 weeks later been like, I better go back and check and make sure?
I mean, they did.
Changed.
They did. I'm thinking about the time that they replaced. Remember they replaced the picture of the Pope when it was Ratzinger with Senator Palpatine, and it's like they do kind of look alike.
That's a lot different. He's a public figure.
Yeah, this was the murderer was a public figure,
right,
but
exactly,
not the other
but not
guy.
This guy.
Yeah.
I think what you should do here, you should play across the board. Rules apply to everybody, right? You know how on Twitter, when certain things come up, it pops up a little box and it's like, oh, I don't know, this might be misinformation. Every article on Wikipedia should just have a thing. It's like, this is just garbage that people wrote.
That's what they tell me in college. It's like, you can't use Wikipedia as a source for things because
big header that says Wikipedia is just a bunch of nonsense. Just consider it that and you'll be okay. But they would never do that. Because it would destroy their business model, because their business model is being an encyclopedia. I feel sorry for that guy, but I don't think we should destroy 230. And the White House, they make announcement after announcement. They don't always do anything, but they love making announcements.
The Bloomberg article is that the White House is pushing for more regulation and control of cryptocurrency, but they were short on details.
Very short.
And any kind of plan.
Probably this means more reporting to the IRS, more going after people, more trying to claw back the money that we desperately need to keep the country going. Because it's, nosediving. But we'll see. And it seems a little disingenuous to me when the government on one hand steps in and says, we must regulate cryptocurrency. It's madness. People are getting into it. They're losing their money. They don't understand any of it. It's these crazy vehicles. We shouldn't have it. Then they turn around and they don't do anything about one of the craziest financial vehicles, one of the most insane.
The Bloomberg headline is something like, the SEC has allowed a deadline to pass for them to do something about NFTs. So they came out, breathing fire a few months ago about NFTs, and now their attitude is, let's sit back and wait and see what happens.
Wait, did you say NFT?
Yeah.
ETF.
Oh, ETF.
Exchange Traded Fund.
Right.
NFTs are not a SEC product at all.
My brain, I don't know where it was.
Exchange Traded Fund. So here, let me pitch this to you, right? I need you to get into my Exchange Traded Fund, right? So we're going to choose a commodity or something like Bitcoin, and I'm going to take your money and we're going to invest in it. But here's the kicker. You don't own it. What a great product, right? The real reason is so that you can invest in it if you're in one of these limited, like 401ks or whatever. Because it's like, it's not as risky. It's a security.
It's not a security, though. Not really.
Well, technically it is.
Oh, this is the one that makes me want to hate Nap.
This one is the most infuriating story of the week. And here's, I ask this question constantly, but it plagues my mind. Here's what I have to know. An engagement challenge. How much of this does he actually understand?
I think that this is weapons grade stupid.
You think he has no idea what the reality is? He's not
clue.
Just trying to cover up something went wrong. He just really is this stupid.
He really is that stupid.
That's maybe scarier than what I think.
Missouri governor vows criminal prosecution of reporter who found flaw in state website. So we've looked into this, and oh boy, this is the dumbest thing.
This is one of the few headlines that didn't use the word hack.
Yeah.
But he used the word hack.
Oh, yeah, he did. The press release was fire-breathing. It's like, we're going after this guy.
Here's the hack, chat. And you can play along at home. You can hack your own browser right now the same way this person did. What you want to do is you want to click on this right mouse button right here in your browser, view page source. That's the hack.
Or go to inspect. Either one.
Yeah, either one.
So, There was a security researcher that posted on Twitter. I don't know how true this is, but they said that they did a security audit 3 or 4 years ago, and that was one of the things they found in their security audit. But they didn't talk to them or renew their engagement or follow up to be sure that the fixes had been completed. And if that's true, then that's a really incredible scandal. The governor said
Maybe
that
that's
this
why he's reacting this way.
probably. The governor said this was a $50 million mistake, and this is a political vendetta with the reporter and blah blah blah. And to use language that fiery, and to be that criminally stupid about the thing, is a level of incompetence that's just shocking at that level of government. Like, he should be ejected from that position.
Was there another drill incident?
Yes.
Really?
Stapler.
Oh. Was it an electric industrial stapler? Or?
Yeah, I was making that.
Oh.
So.
Wow, you really need to focus more on your power tool use.
It was only a graze, so it's fine.
And I don't know if we made it clear, but the hack here is Social Security number was in HTML comment. So if you visited the page, you'd never see it, but in the source code, it's right there. So if you wanted to harvest,
encoded.
Yeah, you could build a little robot to harvest those all day long. Because what you could see was public information about people, but the social was in the source.
And that's like a lot. Basically, the entire state. It's an incredible level of idiotic programming, and yeah, and if it was an issue that was known for years.
I can see making that mistake easily enough. Like you're building a whole profile and you're like, hey, here's all the stuff that we've got. What do you want to list to the consumer? And then they take 6 weeks to send the email back and you forget what you were doing. But if it's a social security number, that has to be an immediate
it's like
spinning red light in your mind.
We're not allowed to do anything with that. Yeah. I think it's more likely that this was built as an internal dashboard. And then somebody was like, hey, wait, we can just put this on the web now. And it's like, oh, no.
Do the internal people need my social? I doubt it. Ridiculous. One of my favorite things to think about when you talking about earlier about the governor just making you so angry. One of the things that makes me angry is when I look at the news footage and they're like, oh yeah, we dropped 7 or 8 Hellfire missiles from Reapers on this location. And then I go and Google cost of a Hellfire thermobaric missile. And I just, what? And you look at the budgets. Like you look at like a state budget and a healthcare budget, and you're like, what? We could just get like 100 of those, send them back, and we'd be all good.
We could pay for the entire state's healthcare needs for a year.
And if you've never considered that, I strongly encourage you, anytime you see a military headline, start doing that math. And this will make you even more insane.
The Pentagon says that hypersonic weapons are a little too expensive. So these are the weapons like what Russia has that move faster than the speed of sound. It is likely that there are not technologies on planet Earth that can intercept these kinds of missiles and shoot them down or deal with them or even give us an alert that they're on the way because they're so fast.
But for now, at least, until we get an economy of scale, every time you push the button, about $30 million. So you got to ask yourself, what could the government do right now with $30 million that would improve your life?
That's kind of a lot.
Now I understand that, there's another side to that coin. It's like, oh yeah, we'd be having free healthcare until we're speaking Russian. Yeah, you got to consider that. But still, 30 million. Now they do believe when the economy of scale kicks in, might get that down to like 10. A bargain. But only if you launch a lot of hypersonic missiles, which creates the onus to launch hypersonic missiles, doesn't it?
I think that eventually there's going to be some kind of a technology like microscopic nano drones. And so you don't build this kind of advanced warfare stuff anymore. You just fly a bunch of drones into the missile control silos. And it's like, oh, these guys are getting ready to press buttons, deploy the drones. And the microscopic nano poison drones, deploy the stuff. And then the human operators inside the silos don't work anymore.
A little bit of a spoiler there, but I recommend the book Wool, which is what he just described.
It's like it's like we've got an air force. It's amazing. It's like as soon as we've got lasers that are...
You just put a laser on a plane.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as we get the lasers that are insanely powerful, then no one on Earth will be able to have an air force because the lasers.
You could mitigate that with the right kind of covering on your aircraft.
Well, a more powerful laser. Eventually, Vanta Black or
If you're launching it
Vanta
from the
White.
ground, but other aircraft aren't going to be able to carry that kind of power.
Yeah, it would have to all be ground-based.
I bet we'll get to a point where you do that, like you project power to the aircraft.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then it focuses it.
Yeah.
So and then the aircraft are probably just floating up there, like pointing at things.
Basically a floating mirror. That's good, because that'll probably cost not $10 million.
And when we're not using it, we can just aim it up and point the sun's rays back at it.
So we solve global warming. Oh, that's what we need to get on. It's like the military technology that can reduce global warming. That's great.
Except it's Highlander 2. We've seen it. We know what happens. I say this every time I start thinking about that. Apparently, Highlander 2 was not a popular enough movie that people still remember.
No, it's been long forgotten.
Well, Amazon is a powerful entity, politically powerful, and they've got their finger on the pulse of politics. And anytime they feel an irregular rhythm, they start making changes.
Amazon abandons its warehouse plan because San Diego is considering a worker protection law. That's what Vice's motherboard headline said, but the spokesperson from Amazon said they've pulled out for unspecified reasons. And I have to say that Amazon, like, even considering San Diego, you had to know this was going to be a thing. This reeks of like a dog and pony show.
I must have read a different version of this, but it's hilarious because you think this like, oh, they were just, like, oh, maybe we'll go to San Diego, maybe we won't. No, the developer who was on the other side of this deal, he tweeted and he was like, I spent 5 years, 5 years trying to get Amazon onto this property, and you've taken everything from me.
Poor guy.
They wanted, it wasn't even crazy. They wanted prevailing wage in San Diego, which is kind of high. Was it like $18?
Yeah. That's not high for San Diego. The cost of living there is bananas.
And they wanted like 56 hours of sick leave per year. And Amazon was like, no. We can't do that.
There was another commenter that said something about unions. Like the union deal stuff was unpalatable.
Yeah, probably. Definitely makes sense. I mean, I feel for the Amazon workers, but if that happens, say goodbye to 2-day prime delivery. I mean, they just can't do it with those margins.
I love this next story because it's also infuriating because everybody involved is so incredibly stupid.
Yeah, and
such weapons-grade stupidity.
And it's not like the good versus the bad. No one here is presenting a good solution. It's just bad or worse, and which is worse is up to your political leanings, maybe.
Ex-minister predicts, quote-unquote, huge battleground over UK's plan to set internet content rules. Let me give you a version of that headline that conveys the futility of what he's talking about. Ex-minister predicts huge battleground over UK's plan to deal with differential equations. Don't differential equations basically work the same no matter what universe you're in?
Well, not if you make them illegal, which is what they're going to do. You know that's what they're going to do. They're going to hand the copyright people full control of everything. They're going to lock everything down, and they're going to try to crush dissent as much as humanly possible.
I'm really looking forward to my Disney broadband.
You joke. But don't some people have Facebook broadband?
Yeah, in third world countries.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the control and the monitoring and the analytics and yeah.
It's coming. And Putin, perhaps looking at how the Western leaders are really fumbling the crypto football, whether they're for it or against it, I don't think any of them understand it enough to really use it effectively. And he's just kind of taken a safe approach.
Putin says he accepts crypto's role in making payments, but it's not going to be official. So the headline here is also, again, a little misleading because Putin was really kind of lukewarm to crypto. He's like, we don't really know what crypto's role is going to be. I think it deserves to exist. It doesn't need to be banned. He said something to that effect.
Has the right to exist.
Has the right to exist.
Which is hilarious because in his mind,
yeah,
he absolutely believes that he's the one that should make that call.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't, for a moment, think, oh, wait, maybe... What an arrogant thing for me to say. Why would I ever be in charge of that? No, he's like, I'll allow it. This is okay with me. And he's kind of right for a big part of the world, isn't he? We know that a lot of people get angry when their neighbor puts up a Ring camera because the way that the world is laid out, in most cases, your front door is pointing at another front door. So by putting a camera on yours, you're surveilling your neighbors. Up until now, I don't think anybody's ever won a case like this, have they?
No.
So
Not that I know of.
This is impressive.
Neighbor wins privacy row over smart doorbell and cameras. This was Amazon and the Amazon Ring. And the judge ruled that this was a GDPR violation and a whole bunch of other things. But I'm really surprised that the way that the ruling is, it seems to me like it might open the door a little bit for the homeowner to go after Amazon. Because one of the big things here was the version of the Ring that was installed could do audio and video. And they showed in court how the Ring was actually recording the neighbor's audio from their backyard. And that's not an okay thing to do.
And audio was a content update.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't exist when it was installed. So like you could install a camera and your neighbor could come and be like, hey, I'm not comfortable with this, and be like, oh, don't worry, there's no audio. And then Amazon flips a switch and there's audio.
Which is what happened here. The judge said that, even if it were video only, that would still be problematic. But, blah, blah, blah. Here in America, there's a lot of case law the other way. It's like if your house or whatever can be observed from the public street, then no problem.
Yeah, I mean, you are limiting someone's ability to secure their home if you don't let them have cameras, right? Although I think it is good form, if not any kind of legality. You want your cameras pointing down. Yeah,
the judge said that, but she didn't say that she would have ruled a different way, but she sort of hints that if the camera wasn't entirely, like the only thing in the field of view was the neighbor's backyard, basically. And
there were two. The shed, the front door caught her whole house. The shed caught everything else, parking lot and everything.
Yeah, so the judge was like, so like maybe if it was just the corner of her house, I got the impression that the judge was like, that's probably fine.
I also wonder, they didn't show us a picture of the shed.
Yeah.
But how much security do you need on your shed?
You could have a very expensive lawnmower in there.
I guess if it's meth country, that's valid. Well, speaking of people stealing things, people love to steal cryptocurrency. Oh my God, the amount of ways that people have come up with to steal cryptocurrency is probably just shy of the amount of ways people have figured out how to smuggle things in prison. Like it's just, we're limitless at this point. And
we saw the catalytic converter last week. A lot of people commented on that.
A lot of people thought that maybe the meth had been inside of that. And that's how they got it. That's
a delivery mechanism. That's neat because it's metal. It's basically a Faraday cage, so it's going to be harder to X-ray and harder to,
expensive though.
Yeah, well,
I guess that's why you're trying to sell it afterwards. But anyway, Coinbase has that problem, and we know that they get hit a lot despite them having really aggressive security. Now we might know why.
How Coinbase Phishers steal one-time passwords. This was a kind of fascinating look. The criminals had built a dashboard that dings in real time to let them know that, hey, there are people that are trying to do stuff.
So once you do that, they can intercept your code, use it, and they'll have you cleaned out before you can do anything about it. Only works with the SMS code, though. So if you upgrade to the other one, it should be okay.
No, the one was the authenticator. So like if you got your
that was a password reset. You're right.
Yeah. So like but it's like you got the security token. And it's like, oh, go give me the security token code. But it was preemptively doing it before Coinbase was asking for it. It was asking you to put it in as a challenge. It was like, oh, in order for you to do this, you got to do the thing because you're on the phishing site.
It's really
sophisticated.
You just have to stop clicking on things in emails. I know it's crazy, but you just got to stop.
Or use a different computer. It's like, oh, I got this alert on this computer. Let me go to this other computer and manually key it in.
That's a good idea. Never have your email and your crypto login on the same computer. That excludes a huge portion of the population who only has one computer, but you got a phone. Use your phone.
Virtual machines. I'm trying to bring you virtual machines for this purpose, but no one will help. Only a few people help.
Verizon Visible? I've never heard of that before. Have you? Apparently it's a version of Verizon where you can't walk into a store. You're just an online-only pleb, and you're part of their cheap network.
This is one of those things that I think that is done, like the FCC, like the Lifeline stuff. It's like you have to have a charity program. You have to service so many people. So like Verizon can run this and say, look, we give this service that no one's ever heard of to the, the inner city super poor people, and we're good, but they're not actually.
Which would perfectly explain why they might have built it and then stopped worrying about it and just let this happen.
So Verizon's visible cell network customers say that they've been hacked. So if you're on the Visible network, powered by Verizon, they've probably had a data breach, but they haven't commented on it, so we'll see.
And a big part of why Visible is so cheap is because you don't get much customer service. I mean, how long is it going to take you to get somebody at Verizon on the phone if you've got a regular account?
About an hour and a half.
So for these guys, forget it. Just suffer. Just take your poor phone and suffer.
It's pretty much just suffer no matter what.
Here's, I think maybe Captain Obvious is doing some research. got a headline for us here.
Study reveals Android phones constantly snoop on their users. Film at 11.
We knew. Yes, we used them anyway because we're desperate for them. But we know what they do.
Well, I'm trying to get that Pine phone working the way that I want.
They point out all the various things they did to test this, and it's what you think. It's spying.
It's just big data analytics. There's nothing wrong with big data analytics.
And it could be almost completely mitigated tomorrow if they would just let me uninstall apps. Because those are the ones that are spying. It's Facebook, it's Google, the Play Store, it's all that nonsense.
I love how you can't uninstall Facebook. You can uninstall the updates, which probably introduces security issues, and then set it to sleep all the time. But a couple of times I've gone back and it's like, I'm awake again. Yeah. And it's like, how did you do that?
It would still be listening if you do all of those things. I mean, that's what they're proving here. You cannot escape Facebook on Android. And, well, we moved on to the security section, by the way.
Our first story is a preview of our nonsense section.
Yeah, this is a terrifying reality. So this is what happens when you get, like a really malicious human who doesn't care about anybody and really bad security.
Woman allegedly hacked flight school and cleared planes with maintenance issues to fly. So what happened was her dad got fired, and then she quit in a huff, and then nothing bad happened. And so it was like, yeah, I'll show you. And then apparently the way that they keep track of maintenance on the planes was some online thing, and she just logged into that and changed maintenance records and removed maintenance records to make it seem like planes had gotten their maintenance when they were supposed to, or they didn't have maintenance issues.
Nothing bad happened, but easily could have.
Yeah.
So I suspect she'll be going away for a little while.
Yeah.
Probably won't be letting her fly anymore.
A little impulsive.
I don't know. She planned it for months. I think this shows, what is that? It's aggravated at that point, right?
Yeah.
Aggravated hacking. Or maybe hacking in the first degree. Olympus. I remember...
This was 3 weeks ago.
Was it 3 weeks ago? We said, does anybody remember Olympus? They're a camera company. What are they doing now? The answer is getting hacked.
Olympus confirms a U.S. cyber attack weeks after BlackMatter ransomware hit EMEA systems. So we reported about 3 weeks ago. It was like, hey, they might have been hit. They were hit.
But wasn't this the second one after that? Because one was ransomware. And then this. Which was probably just something left over, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. They could have paid the ransom and then had some other stuff left behind.
Tough times for Olympus. I don't know what they sell. There's a picture of a phone here. Do you think they sell phones?
No, they still sell cameras. They still make camera gear and stuff.
Oh, okay.
They're just kind of, winding it down, it seems. But a lot of loyal Olympus users.
But not much of an IT team. Microsoft has their Azure cloud and, like Cloudflare and all these other big services. They're constantly mitigating DDoS attacks. And they seem to have this way of measuring who has the coolest one by how big of an attack it was.
Microsoft said that it mitigated a 2.4 terabit distributed denial of service attack against its Azure platform. 2 big green spikes.
That's a lot. They said it was all coming from not one country, but it was all from Asia mostly. So there's some kind of phishing campaign going on there. It was targeting a European company, but they wouldn't say who. So all that, those big green spikes right there, was all one target.
That's pretty crazy.
But I guess it didn't work. Good job, Microsoft.
It's only a matter of time before UDP is outlawed. That's not possible.
We'll have to have some sort of creative legislation name that's you must respond or no blind texting.
Your initial UDP packets can't exceed like 100 bytes in size or something like that. And it's like, wait a minute. Or unsolicited UDP packets can't exceed 100 bytes by law or something crazy like that.
Oh, I've got the slogan for that campaign to get people away from UDP. We only go both ways. Start making some T-shirts. So we only go both ways, and then there's UDP with the no smoking over it. No one would get that.
No.
You could easily make friends with other nerds if you wore that shirt, though. You'd be like, I get that. And then you just smack them in the face.
No, I don't want to be your friend. Go away.
Don't speak to me. Google, like everybody else, has to be monitoring this whole ransomware, hacking, data leak situation. I mean, it's every 5 or 6 a week, and we got to get more serious about it, right?
Google unveils a cybersecurity program and action team. So Google's looking at this, and they're taking up the mantle of, yes, we can help our customers and the internet at large by educating them.
So they're going to put together a couple of new departments and so forth, hire a bunch of people. Probably be a good job if you can get it. Although you have to work for Google, don't you?
Now, this was a follow-up to last week's nonsense story.
Yeah, the dancing grannies.
A lot of people really liked that. The videos were interesting.
I personally feel like it would be super annoying.
Yeah, as do a lot of people, apparently.
So they're working on technology. I mean, you can't just go and like push around the grannies. Even if you're the Communist Party, that's going to be an optic that you really can't have.
Did you see the comment from the party on that?
No.
It was, this kind of behavior is good. It's to be encouraged, but maybe we should temper it a little bit more with, doing it in a different public square, not doing it super early in the morning.
But the only reason you do this is for the attention, right?
Yeah.
Like, why else would these? Maybe it's exercise, but why do you have to be so loud if it's just exercise?
That was one of the suggestions. Is like maybe everybody can use Bluetooth earbuds, so they can have a flash mob that's perfectly quiet.
These are old women.
I'm just saying.
I understand that the Chinese people might be more technologically advanced as our old people, but still, that's a lot to ask. Plus, those are expensive. So you got to come up with something else, and some genius person has done it. Although I don't think that it will be allowed to happen.
China's noisy dancing grannies have been silenced by a device that disables speakers. Many people are too scared to confront the group of middle-aged older women who take public parks and sports grounds to exercise along to music. So there's a device, you turn it on, and it emits some kind of crazy electromagnetic field, and the speakers stop working.
FCC has laws against stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
I wonder about if that's a thing in China.
Can't cause harmful interference. Yeah, you're probably not supposed to.
If you are a Linux user or you just don't want to pay a subscription, although I think the next version they're giving it back for the full price. Right? Office, you can actually buy Office now.
Well, but it's subtly engineered to make it less functional than the subscription.
Oh, really? So if you hate all that and you don't want to pay for your Office software, you don't have to. But you do have to deal with this kind of stuff. But to be fair, Office isn't all that secure either, right?
LibreOffice and OpenOffice bug allows hackers to spoof digitally signed docs. So basically the hash collision attack in document form, but with some extra bugs sprinkled on top.
They'll fix it.
Yeah.
Just update. And don't use any signed docs in the meantime. I know that's easy to say if your business depends on that. And we have a rare but getting less rare headline of a Linux malware. More and more. Makes sense to go after that, right?
Yep. Fontaine Lake Linux malware is used in targeted attacks. So this is a multi-stage deployment. The initial stage just sits quietly and collects credentials. And then those credentials are aggregated and then shared. And so those credentials are added to a pool of credentials that are used in distributed, credential stuffing attacks to try to find if those credentials work on other systems.
Which is exactly the kind of thing you'd want to do if you were going after an OS that's mostly servers, right? Because you're not going to be stealing crypto.
And it can steal private keys.
So that's bad. Time to update. It's always time to update. You can't escape it.
That's a fancy looking bear.
That's a pun, Chad. And that is because he is a Russian fancy bear and he's coming through your Gmail.
Google warns 14,000 users targeted by Russian hackers. And they're going to give them security keys. They sort of waffled on this for like a week or so. And they were like, wow, this is really serious. And they said, you know what? We're just going to issue you a hardware security token.
But only if you're one of the 10,000 high profile. Now let's look at these headlines again. 14,000, 10,000. What about those 4,000?
It was a case of mistaken identity. The fancy bear would not actually be interested in them.
How disappointing. Like, oh, I got hacked by the fancy bear. Give me my key. And they're like, you're not important enough for that. Sorry. They clearly made a mistake. You're nothing.
Yeah. They looked at the mailbox. There's only like 3 messages in here and like grandma's biscuit recipe. This is clearly a CIA honeypot for the fancy bear.
Yeah. It's all just like I have one spam account that I use, and it's just like the last 50 messages. It's like, it's Uber. Did you want to use your $20 credit? It's Uber again. Hey, it's Uber. You got $20. It's going to expire soon. And there's like 4 months of those. It's never going to expire, Uber. Don't lie. And we have our can't go through a week without customer data, right? But this wasn't just customer data. For some reason, they were storing the shareholder data in the same database.
We want to know who owns us. Brewdog has exposed the data of 200,000 customers and shareholders. Oh, man, I meant to include it, but Thingiverse is also caught up. They lost a bunch of data, but it's still developing because Thingiverse said they only lost 500 people's data, but it looks like it might be in the millions. So I don't know. We'll report on that next week.
I think it's getting to the point where it's not unreasonable for me to never want any company to have my information.
Yeah.
I should just be a hash.
We've been saying that for years.
I don't know how you keep the bad accounts out in that situation. Like, you have to incorporate the email, but in such a way that they don't get it.
You know what's crazy is that you can implement that with Google's social login. So like if you log in with Google, you can log in with Google in such a way that they don't even get your email address.
But that's Google.
Yeah.
So you need an open version of that. But then if it's open, someone could find a flaw.
Yeah.
And then it's all there. So you have to decentralize it. But now if you decentralize it, who's going to trust it?
So what you're saying is we all need to get hardware tokens that are anonymous, and that anonymous token unlocks stuff, and you never associate that with your personal info. That sounds like an internet driver's license.
And you get it tattooed on your perineum. And then, so, nobody can steal it. Well, I mean, people could steal it, but you have to be careful who you trust to see that. And then, how you got your Surface set up for the face unlock, but you have to stand up and show it that. Also, your weight's going to be a factor there, isn't it? Maybe that's a bad idea. Not only do we see constant hacks, but it seems like once they're in, it's real tough to get rid of them.
Yeah.
There is a lasting presence, and then you just keep getting hit over and over.
Acer confirms that it was hacked once again as culprits flaunt 60 gigabytes of stolen customer data. So we got them out. We didn't have to pay the ransom. Oh, no, we've been hacked again.
They were never gone in the first place. What do you do in that situation?
Well,
you just nuke it?
Yeah, it turns out that even if you pay the ransom and get your stuff back, it doesn't fix the underlying security issues. And a lot of companies are like, we got it all back. Let's keep going. And it's like, no, you're still going to have to spend millions of dollars dealing with this insanity.
You also have to worry about the solar winds type situation where there's more than one in there and they're not aware of each other.
Yeah.
And you find one, but you didn't even know about the other one.
Yeah.
It's still there.
It's horrifying.
There's the ghost Teams call again. Can you hear it?
I can.
It's in here somewhere. Somewhere in this room, there is a Teams call happening.
It might be the burner phone.
All right. Oh, and Chris is not here again this week.
Oh, yeah, she's still on vacation. She'll be back next week probably, though.
What are we going to do?
Check out the Linode link below. Thanks, Linode. Devember's going on. There's a link. Get $100 of credit.
You know what? I think we should cover that again because so many people, I got people tweeting me and we got comments and people are like, how do I get involved in Linode? So here's how you get involved in Linode. Choose a project. Do we have you create your own thread, right?
Yeah.
Choose a project that you're going to do between now and
December 31st.
You got till the new year to get this done. Make a thread on our forum. If you're just registering, you might have to interact a little bit before you get permission to do that because, trolls. And then list all the things that you're doing with your project. Keep us up to date. Tell us what's going on. People will interact with it. If you need help, whatever. And then come the new year, we will look at it. If we choose you, you'll get a prize.
Yeah. We'll make a new thread later that you can link to your project, and then we'll go off and read your thread. And you can look at last year's Devember for an idea of how it works, because all of that is still there, and all of those projects are still there. And our videos in Devember from last year are all still there.
You can get some good ideas
Yep.
on the kind of thing that you might want to do.
Yeah. And if you don't want to do the programming challenge because that's too much like work, you can do the gaming challenge.
Right. When are we putting up the Minecraft server?
It is in process. We're going to try to get it live the beginning of November so that you've got time to work on it over the Thanksgiving holiday, American Thanksgiving holiday.
And that will be judged by Krista. And if you have something that appeals to her, you can win a prize with that.
I have been told that compared to the old Minecraft server, the new one is beastly. It is currently in testing.
Nice.
With our old data. Because sometimes the old one would get a little slow when you were chunking in a bunch of new stuff.
When I provisioned it on Linode, I didn't give it the horsepower that we probably should have. And we went for multi-core, where it seems like Minecraft server works best with a fast single core.
Yeah, or a lot of fast single cores.
So I think we're not going to use Linode this year, not because we don't want them, but just because we want to be able to do weird things with the server and be able to throw hardware at it. But we are using them for the VPN so that you can't see our server.
Nice.
It works great.
Yeah.
One-click WireGuard. That was real easy to set up.
Yay!
Good job, Linode. Although I got to say, here's a little bit of a critique from Linode. When you do a one-click WireGuard, it doesn't give you any information about, like, here's where we put the keys. Here's where we set up WireGuard. Here's the config file. None of that. It's just like, go figure it out.
It's like the reason that I click one-click WireGuard is because I have no idea what I'm doing.
Right. You need to understand the basics of it. But once you understand the basics of it, you're like, oh, that's why they did that.
Yeah. It's good. Good insight. All right. What do we got tomorrow?
Haven't sorted it yet. It'll be business. Maybe it'll be business and nothing else because there's a massive amount of business.
There is a lot of business this week. All right. We'll see you tomorrow.